In the Botanicals range, LEGO not only released the bonsai tree, they also put out the flower bouquet. Now, I went to a local florist and I challenged them to see if they could replicate LEGO's flower bouquet, and I'm going to tell you right now, the results were stunning. Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Dan, and if you like this content and want to see more like it, please do subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you want to catch me live, I stream on Twitch 3 times a week. Head over to twitch.tv/betweenthebricks. Okay, so before we get started, huge shout out to LEGO for sending me the set early for review, and a massive shout out to Victoriana Florist in Upper Hutt, and specifically Eileen, who was a fantastic sport who replicated the bouquet. Eileen, thank you so much. Absolutely love the bouquet. Right, let's get into it and compare the two bouquets. So as you can see there, you have the LEGO flowers on the left and the bouquet on the right. And to be fair, I think Eileen did an absolutely fantastic, stunning job of replicating the bouquet. It is almost flower for flower with only 2 exceptions. And I think just to have all of those flowers in stock just on the day that I happen to call up and say, hey, I'm this crazy LEGO person, and LEGO did a flower bouquet. Do you have these flowers? Can you replicate it? And she's like, hey, sure, come on down. We'll have a look and we'll see how we go. And to be fair, they are amazing. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to take a look at each individual flower and just see how well LEGO was able to replicate the flowers. So first up is my favorite flower, the Snapdragon. And if we compare this to the real life Snapdragon, you can see that LEGO did a fantastic job. So you can see here that the bells of the flowers have been replicated quite nicely, including even the lightening of color. Up this one, you can see they start off a little bit darker down the bottom and they get a little bit lighter towards the top and then end up in this greenery up here. And LEGO has actually managed to replicate that all the way up. The other thing that's really well done here is the size. They have the largest flowers at the bottom, medium, getting smaller as the buds come up the stem here. So as far as I'm concerned, this one has to be a solid 9 out of 10. For the greenery, we didn't exactly know what this was meant to represent, so the florist decided to use just a leafy stem instead, and to be fair, it fit the purpose perfectly well. So because of that, we're not going to give this one a score. It just does the job. The other greenery, however, is reasonably well replicated by using this leaf here. I can't quite recall what the florist said this leaf was called, and it did come off a larger branch. So she used 3 of these leaves to replicate the leaf here. It's obviously slightly wider, but to be fair, you could probably easily find a leaf like this somewhere out in the natural world. It looks a little bit like flax here in New Zealand if you're familiar with flax, but I think, again, perfect choice by the florist to use this long green broadleaf. So now we have the LEGO daisy, and let's compare that with the daisy that the florist used. So as you can see here, the florist actually did manage to find some daisies that had exactly the same amount of flowers on the stem, 3 on each, which I thought was very, very impressive. They're not equilateral lengths, however, they are slightly different, but hey, that doesn't really matter. As far as the look goes, white flower petals on the outside, the yellow center. I think the designer of the daisy did a really good job. It represents the plant well, and I'm going to give that one a solid 8 out of 10. California poppies aren't too common in New Zealand as far as I'm aware, so the florist had a stand-in in the form of an artificial flower. And I feel like it really does look like the poppy. You can see that it's orange in color, it has the same sort of stamen in the middle, and the large sort of broad leaves. Now the artificial poppy is much bigger than the LEGO poppy, and I'm not sure whether this one does represent a real life poppy size or whether it's slightly larger. If not, doesn't really matter. I think they did a really good job of mimicking the poppy there, so I'm going to give this one a solid 9 out of 10. Now the lavender is an interesting choice. It's not a flower that is often commercially used here in New Zealand in floral bouquets from what I understand. And we are in the middle of summer, which means that lavender plants have pretty much all finished their flower. So what the florist did to replicate that was use these flowers here, and she tiered them to make them as if they were 3 tiers tall. And to be fair, as you saw in the pictures earlier, they looked pretty close to actually what this flower is meant to be. So, you know, to be honest, I think the stand-in does a perfect job. On my way home from the florists, I just happened to drive past a lady who was doing some gardening in her front section, and she was pulling out lavender bushes. You wouldn't be able to plan for this kind of thing. So I stopped and I asked if I could have a little bit of lavender, and she most graciously obliged and said I could take as much as I wanted because she was pulling out some of it and it was going to be composted. So this is a genuine lavender plant, and you can see there that it does look slightly different. So this one here, I'm going to have to say, is probably the most non-like the original flower, and it is more like this flower. So because of that, and because it was named as a lavender, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10 for lavender replication, but I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 for replicating whatever this flower was. So the Aster is a flower that I'd never actually heard of before. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't even know if we had them in New Zealand. But lo and behold, the florist did have some Asters in stock, and as you can see there side by side, you can see exactly why the designer went with layering upon layering upon layering of those leaf elements, because that's exactly what the Aster looks like. So in that sense, I'm going to give this one a solid 9 out of 10. And last but not least, we have the famous rose. And as you can see here, the rose is quite a bulky build. It is quite nice. It is layered with its outer petals. And if we compare this to a real rose, you can see just how well the designer has done. You can see in the middle there, you have the very, very tight section, just like we do in the real rose. And then you can see the outer petals getting wider and wider as the rose opens up. Now, with the parts usage here using the roof pieces and the car bonnet pieces, I think the designer has really captured the look of the rose quite well. As you can see, the designer has used a wing piece there to replicate the leaves as found on the rose stems. And so because of that, I'm going to give this one a solid 10 out of 10. So here's the all-important thing. How much did they cost? Well, the flower bouquet from Lego will retail in New Zealand for $99.99. The replicated flower bouquet from the florists was $60. So there you go, there's my comparison between Lego flowers and real flowers. What do you think? Do you think Lego did a fantastic job of the replication of the flowers? Do you think the florist did a great job replicating the bouquet like I think she did? Don't forget Valentine's Day will be coming up soon, and it will be a great opportunity to get your significant other a flower bouquet, whether it's from Lego or the lovely people at Victoriana Florists. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, please be safe, keep on building, and I'll catch you on the next one.